Good evening. I'll call the Teaching and Learning Committee to order February 26th at 5:30 p.m. Item 2, roll call. Ms. Higginbotham.
Here.
Mr. Pollak.
Here.
Mr. Ewart here. Agenda revisions and approval, item number 3.
Make a motion to approve the agenda and revisions.
Second.
Higginbotham with the motion, Mr. Pollak with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, approval of January 22nd committee meeting minutes.
Move to approve January 22nd, 2024 committee meeting minutes.
I will second.
Mr. Pollak with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, reports and updates. We have Mr. Miziak with us. Item A, 3-year school library plan. Looks like we have a team with us.
This is the third committee in a row that I'm bringing special guests, and tonight I have 2 for you. Aaron Gaskill and Jeff Schreiber are here tonight. They are our librarians, and they're going to present to you the 3-year library plan. This is a part of the Wisconsin State School District standards that we're required to have on file and have approved by the board a 3-year long-range library plan. So what Mr. Gaskill and Mr. Schreiber have created for you is a outline for our 3-year plan. It was based off of what's called the Future Ready Framework. So there are different sections to the pie that's presented here, and what they will do is they'll walk through this library plan with you tonight, and then following that plan, they're going to highlight one specific element of this library plan, which is an expansion of our elementary digital library. So I'm going to hand it over to them.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you for having us tonight as guests. As Jake said, which he really just summarized the top of the plan if you had a chance to look at it in your packets. Jeff and I, about 2 years ago probably, through DPI and an opportunity with them, were trained in the Future Ready Library Framework, which you see up there, which this plan follows, and I think it follows our board policy really well. I think you'll see good alignment with that as we go through. Our mission, if you would scroll down a little bit, basically is just to be the resource hub for all of our schools and our stakeholders in our schools, that being mainly our teachers and our students, really trying to make sure that we provide access to a wide variety of print and digital resources for them to support the teaching and learning goals of our district, not just within literacy, but really supporting all of our teachers, all of our content areas, and their instructional needs, as well as their student needs that come out of it. On that plan, you'll see that we have 2 licensed certified library media specialists, that being myself and Jeff, who's at the high school. We have assistants in our libraries at the middle school and high school level, and then we have our school library aides or assistants at each of our elementary schools. And I would say we have fantastic staff that work well together and provide for our students and teachers. Right, so what we'd like to do is just take you through the different wedges of that framework, just highlighting some key points, and then mainly we want to focus on our future areas for growth, because that's what this framework does, is it causes us to reflect on what are we doing currently, what are our practices that we do, which we're not really looking to change anything, or make any earth-breaking changes, but there are always going to be areas for improvements and growth, and so that's what we'll see on the other side of the framework.
Yeah, thanks again for having us. Obviously, we put this together with the pie pieces, and when we worked with the DPI, when a lot of their suggestions were really to, when you make a goal, to focus on 1 or 2 key areas rather than trying to do everything at once. And so we took a look at some of the things that we do in each of these areas, and then focused on 1 or 2 areas that we thought we could make some improvements in. The first piece of the pie, in no particular order, is curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And what it allowed us to do is take a look at our online catalogs, how well kids can access, and the community, teachers, anybody, access all of our materials, the collaboration that we have, a lot of the digital resources that we have. And so it focuses a lot on curating these digital resources and building the partnerships. As far as growth and things that we are working on, always to establish aligns with obviously what the district sets forth to us, and I think that's our number one thing. And we work very well with teaching and learning, and we have been actually to set out the mission of what they're planning on doing so that we can support best what it is that they need. And so I think that we do a very good job in this area. We have a lot of good resources, and I think we work well as a team throughout the district to ensure that we follow this.
Personal and professional learning is the next which, and I thought this is looking to make sure that we can support our students and our teachers in obviously extending and expanding their knowledge of not just the practices within their classrooms, but the resources that can help them extend what they do as well. So we provide on-demand library and technology support. Just had a music teacher come in today looking to know if there's any way that she can record her students performing a piece and then individually assess them. So knowing what kind of technology pieces we have in place to do that, how can they get it off of that device and into Google Classroom. That's where we come in to try and support and move forward those opportunities for our students and our teachers. So not just providing that for teachers, but also on demand as often as we can, students coming in with different opportunities for either assessment or learning, and they have an opportunity to do something different using technology or other resources. That's where we come alongside and try and create those opportunities for our students. In future areas for growth under there, our biggest challenge for Jeff and I has been covering and providing opportunities at the elementary level. And so you'll see that as a common theme because Jeff and I are housed at the middle school, high school, while we do travel and we oversee the operations within those libraries. It's really hard to provide that on-demand support. So we're looking to grow a tutorial collection for not only our students and our staff, but kind of be present as virtually as we can, knowing needs that are there.
The next piece of the pie is the infrastructure, and while we may not directly have a lot to do with that, I think the highlight of this is really our partnership with technology, our technology department, and we've always had a really good working relationship in whatever 15, 16 years that Aaron and I have been here. We've worked very well with the technology department to be sure that we collaborate with them and that they know what we need and that also, we know what they are looking for as well. And so this piece really is so that the IT department and our department work well together and collaborate so that we're sure everybody's getting what they need. And I think we've done a really good job of that as far as purchases and technology and supporting that. I think the district has done a very good job with that. The one-to-one initiative has been fantastic. And so the support, I think, in this category has been fantastic, and really it's just a matter of maintaining what we have and keeping the lines of communication open, more so than doing anything new.
Budget and resources, really just making sure that we are strategic and meeting the needs of, as Jeff said, all the different stakeholders areas in our buildings and at the district level, meeting those goals and coming alongside the different programming so we can support all of our schools, all of our teachers. The biggest piece under there on the left-hand side, and probably most important, is understanding our common school funds, and that's really our operating budget in terms of providing resources for our students and staff. And you can see on the plan we've linked all the different resources, the background, the guidelines for common school funds, and where that money comes from, as well as the criteria for spending that within our schools. It was created in 1848. It's a constitutionally created trust fund, so it's as old as our state is, and ever since, the proceeds of that trust fund have been directed towards school library aid. So anything that Jeff and I are budgeting for, planning for, it's all really coming out of that common school fund budget. So all of that, when we use and we apply that, we are always looking at the criteria for selection, which is in board policy. Jeff and I are very familiar with that, and I think you'll see that everything that we have really aligns with what the goal of the district is and the goal of the board as well. For future areas of growth, we're always looking to do an annual review of our collections to make sure that they match the needs of our teachers and our students. That's always a moving target based on different classroom goals, curriculum, teaching and learning goals. So we're always keeping an eye on that. Curating our library collections, print and digital, trying to make sure that we have equity. And again, that's where the elementary school piece is going to come in today as we present to you a proposal that Jeff and I would like to see to provide equity in the digital realm of our elementary school students, that being ebooks and audiobooks, and really creating a robust collection for them to access. Seeking additional funding, because common school funds can really only be used for a specific list of resources. We can use funding at times for things like student incentives, furnishings, equipment that don't meet the needs for that. And so as a future area for growth, we would look to seek additional funding through community partnerships. That's an area we'd like to establish as well.
All right, community partnerships. I think in the last probably 5 years or so, you've seen a lot bigger movement as far as involvement with the community libraries to try to sort of not merge resources, but making sure that we're sort of supplementing each other's stuff. And I think our community library is fantastic. They've done a great job in being supportive of us. They basically come to us, what do you need? Battle of the Books is a great example of something that just happened where they got to us early and said, we'll get you all these books that you need. Tell them, because we can't buy 5, 10, 15 copies of something, but they can get them through interlibrary loan. And so they're a great partnership for us. They come in, they drop summer book programs and winter book program leaflets and stuff in our libraries, and we let them put them in the library, and then seasonally they change it out. So it's been a really good partnership with them, and I think it's only growing, and that's something that we want to keep growing. As far as author visits, Aaron and I were just talking about, he's bringing in an author, Boswell Books, working together with local bookstores. About 7 years ago, I brought in author Andrew Marinus to the high school, who writes sports nonfiction, and I took money that I applied for the Germantown Scholarship, Teacher Scholarship, and used that. So I think there's a lot of ways that we're trying to utilize community partnerships to do some unique things that maybe we wouldn't be able to do with our own money. So I think it's strong, and we're going to continue to grow that.
The data and privacy piece of the framework is really pretty straightforward in terms of just teaching and promoting that students understand data privacy, the importance of it, how to ensure that they have it. So we are always trying to model and advocate for best practices with that, whether we're working with students on digital citizenship type lessons or partnering with our teachers as well. And then in future areas for growth under that, it's just really ensuring that our library staff, all of our assistants are also aware of student privacy rights, and also making sure that we are helping students ensure that they're doing the right things to make sure that their information and data is kept private as well.
The next piece is collaborative leadership, which is actually pretty simple. It's really just us keeping in line with what the community and what the board and what the district wants. Ultimately, that's our goal, is to be supportive of you and be supportive of every stakeholder in the district. And so what this really speaks to is the fact that, yes, we understand that that's our number one focus, is that we want to be sure that we're all working together, that we're all on the same page, that we all want the same things, and that if there's issues that come up, that we can communicate with each other and we can solve those problems together. And I think we've had a good relationship, in all the years I've been here, and so I think we'll just continue to work through this and keep it going.
Home stretch. Time and space. This is where, honestly, I come to work, I feel so fortunate and so blessed. I know where I started in in Kennedy Middle School in 2008 and what the library facility looked like. And I kind of am still in awe of what I walk into every day and the opportunity to work in the space that I do. When I go to visit our elementary schools, I feel the same way. So in terms of space, we're very fortunate. And I know that our teachers appreciate that. I know our students do as well. And so we feel really good about our space. Not that there isn't always opportunities for improvement, because we do see the way that our spaces are used, and those opportunities change and those demands change. So we're going to need to change with that. As far as areas for growth there, really it's the time piece of it. Later on today, I know on your agenda you're talking about Kennedy Middle School's proposed schedule change. And so just making sure that our students, our teachers, all have as much opportunity and really are using those spaces and the resources as effectively as we hope they will, and helping them grow that way. So that would be our area of growth. It's just making sure we create opportunities in our schedule time for students and teachers.
And then finally, we have learning-centered literacy, which really aims to take a look at making sure that our collections and the materials that we provide represent everyone in the district equally, and to be sure that we do those within the framework that we set forth within the board policy, and to make sure that we're providing everybody with appropriate materials and things for different needs. It could be books, it could be audiobooks, it could be magazines, it could be DVDs, all the sorts of things that we have, the databases. But when it comes down to it, we just want to make sure that everybody is represented. And that is one of our goals as we always work for in the future. Creating staff and student awareness of what we offer is always something that's on the agenda for us. I mean, we're always looking for new ways to try to get through to people what exactly we're doing. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but we try. Whether it's Google Classrooms or whether trying to put out things in newsletters. I mean, it's not for a lack of trying that we don't get through to people sometimes, but the goal for the future is to keep going and to keep trying. And that's part of it. So that is our, in a nutshell, plan. And so if you have any questions.
So it talks about a 3-year cycle for changing out books. How do we determine which books we keep, which ones we get rid of? Where do those go once we eliminate books out of the library?
It's not really a 3-year cycle for like updating collections. The 3-year cycle is this plan until it's kind of rejuvenated and really republished, I guess,
Okay.
if you want to say that. As far as collection development within our libraries, it's always ongoing. And so, looking at board policy, which it states, in terms of reading and updating collections based on need, or reading based on something that's not relevant, something that's not dated, something that's not being used. That's constant and ongoing in our libraries. And so we always are looking for recommendations from teachers, from students, and of course we'll talk more about Common School funding and our digital library, different opportunities to expand and enrich our collections as well.
Tracy?
They covered them.
Okay. Just a couple of things as I'm looking through what you presented, which always adds more context to just reading what was given to us. I see, obviously, we have this framework provided by DPI, and it seems like we've attached some goals to that, right, as part of this 3-year framework, as well as some things that already probably align within that framework that we're doing, which is good. There's a lot of good things in here. But when I think of a 3-year plan, there's a place we're at now and a place we want to be. And the part I miss in this is the map to get there, and some waypoints of goals that we can measure against to make sure we're on path and staying there. So if I could just add that as a suggestion, and
So
this is
more
just
of
a report.
Time
Yeah, a timeline, Sure, but goals and maybe a pathway as far as what that really looks like. What do some of these things look like in operation? And when you know that you've met those, intangibly so, right? How we can promote that and help promote that for you, so. I think that was just the only piece that I'm kind of missing on it. But I appreciate it. There's a lot of good information in here and a lot of things that I think a lot of people don't understand. School libraries are more than books in a room, right? And you talked about a lot of that, right? All the supportive apparatuses you use to help with the teachers and the technology you can bring in. There's so much more than what they used to be. So we can, I think with this, we can highlight a lot of that and really bring some of that to the forefront. But other than that, really interesting stuff, so thank you.
Now the second.
Yeah, so we'll, if nobody else has anything, I'll move on to B. That'll be the reading pilot, right? Or no? Oh, sorry. I thought that was gonna be the next. Yeah, sorry. You have a two-part presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This SORA proposal came about really as, when you talk about creating sort of like that three-year plan, this is like a first step in this three-year plan. So, this is kind of the start of it. And SORA is our online library per se, the service that hosts our collection. We got into it with the high school and middle school years ago and put audiobooks and ebooks on there, and we really never did much for the elementary school. And we talked about it sort of year after year, and we had an elementary school librarian during that time, and she really wasn't into doing it through SORA. She wanted to get most of her books through Follett, but it was kind of a mess. They were doing, kind of like these playaways, and no one was sure really what direction we were going to go with ebook and audiobook. And Aaron and I have sort of been kicking around this idea for a few years, and finally we had the money available to finally say, I think it's time that we make a commitment to getting a ebook, audiobook library for our kids at the elementary school. So one of the first things we did when working with SORA is they really offer two pathways that you can go. One is that you sort of join a consortium of schools in Wisconsin and basically pay a fee and then get their service, and that becomes our collection as a shared collection. The other one is really to build our own collection. And we really weighed a lot on both, and positives and negatives of both. But the direction that we went through, even though it was probably more expensive, was really to have our own choice. And we thought that really that was the direction the district would want to go. To choose our own material would allow us sort of greater oversight over the material that's coming in and how it's cataloged and how it's going out and things like that. So what we present tonight really is sort of like that version of creating our own library essentially for the elementary school kids from scratch, which we already have at KMS, and that's how we've done it there. So we skipped sort of joining the consortium in lieu of sort of doing some extra work and allowing us to pick our own stuff, essentially is what it is. So if you take a look at, the background of it, basically, we only have 151 digital ebooks available for elementary kids, all right, which is probably insufficient in our eyes, to say the least. At the high school, we have checked out over 2,000 digital checkouts this year as far as ebooks and audiobooks and magazines. So it does get a lot of use at the high school and the middle school. And so I guess we wanted to use the same service to align it. And I know that some of the questions are, well, access, and one of the things we wanted to make sure of is that the high school kids and the middle school kids and the elementary school kids are all accessing different material appropriate to their age group. And so we've worked very hard with SORA to come up with sort of safeguards and to make sure that these collections are separate and make sure nobody's getting into the wrong areas where they shouldn't be. And also SORA as a company themselves are working very hard to make sure that everything is, that they are doing a good job of doing their labeling and keeping people out of where they shouldn't be as well. As far as the benefits of having a digital library, we've seen a lot of use at the high school as far in different things, as far as reading incentives, interactive reading tools, anytime, anywhere access. And I think COVID really changed this for us. And, you know, maybe before COVID, we weren't so sold on rushing into a digital library. But I think post-COVID, we said, I think we need to move. That's the way things are going. If something would ever happen again, this gives kids access all the time to material that they can use. And so I think that was part of the reasoning in bringing it to you now. It does get a lot of really good use. I mean, I find at the high school, a lot of special ed population will use it because it helps them read along with it. It helps them listen as they are reading with it, and I can get that stuff a lot sooner. If I order it through books, it often takes months to come in. This, a teacher can come in, and the next day I can have it ready for them. And that's been really helpful, too. So it's test prep books. I mean, there's a lot of different things at the high school and the middle school that we can get. And so those are some of the benefits that it would bring.
So just to clarify too, the 2,000, over 2,000 checkouts, that's a KMS and GHS combined circulation statistic that I pulled. But if you look at our elementary usage with the ebooks that we have currently in our catalog, which again, we don't have many to start with, we're looking at 28 digital checkouts this year in total, which is very small. And I wrestled with this, as Jeff said, for a while because, well, at the middle school and high school, we know all of our students are one-to-one. They have the devices, they have the access. We know that's not the case at the elementary level for all of our students, nor probably should it, which is why we haven't gone in that direction. That said, it's really that outside of school piece for me that whether it's weekends, summer, it does provide a positive outlet for students to get some positive screen time when school's not in session. I'm looking at summer as really one of the bigger benefits as well to keep kids reading. There are reading programs that we can basically create some summer reading programs. Our schools aren't open, allows kids to benefit and grow through that as well. Also, I work with fifth graders regularly throughout the school year, and for the longest time, I always get asked, you really have print books in your libraries? Don't all kids, they just want digital, right? That's all they want. Not necessarily. I would say on my surveys of fifth graders, they will still tell you 70% of them would prefer the print. I'm the same way. This is a supplementary library. This is no way targeting to take over or to replace what we're doing in print. It's going to be small, but it's going to be a supplement to what we offer our students. At least that's what we envision. As far as the collection development, as Jeff said, this is curated 100% by us, not by a consortium, not selected for us. Even if the consortia, which they did allow us to filter and block materials for the two of us to manage all of that content that comes in by the thousands as they purchase it, we can't honestly say we can monitor that. It's not feasible for us. So we would rather be able to manage it ourselves. The initial core collection that we're proposing, and we worked with Sora and Overdrive, is 1,400 titles. That would equal about one title per student at this point. And we broke down the lists for that so we can see the title list. Jeff and I have reviewed that, and that really follows our selection plan of recommendations based on what we're already seeing as popular as print materials in our library, high interest topics and titles, and also those that align to our curriculum and also support our curriculum. The investment that we're looking at and proposing would be funded solely by those common school funds, which this year is at an all-time high for us, so we think it's a great opportunity. As a district, we have $312,000, or just over $312,000 that is provided through that trust fund for libraries. This would represent less than 10% of that budget at this point, this initial investment. It would come to just around $30,000 for a start in it. There's no additional fees or membership charges, and we would have sole control over the weeding and growth of that library as we would move forward. So that is kind of an overview of how we would like to create the equity from K to 12 in the digital realm of ebooks and audiobooks, and just provide, again, a supplement to what we offer in our libraries for our students at the elementary level.
So I do like you hit on a lot of things that are important to us as a board, as far as us being able to, develop our own library instead of just, accepting what's already there. Also, keeping it age appropriate instead of, again, access to the whole thing. That's obviously really important to the district. And then my one question is, so the anytime, anywhere access, which is obviously really important, are we able to track that then through the summer to see how often it is used? And
No different than our catalog and physical checkouts in our library. We can access student accounts. We can get summaries of what's checked out. We can get statistics on what has circulated through those libraries and provide those through reports as well.
do we have that now as far as how much our, because right now we have this for our KMS and middle school and high
Right,
school?
and that's where those,
Right, and so
basic
that's throughout how
circulation
much is it being
statistics
used in
come
the
from.
summertime? Have you noticed, like vacations and?
that's a good question. Now, I wouldn't say I've broken that down for KMS and GHS, but that would be something that we could look at as well.
It would just be interesting to know if our students are actually accessing it over the summer.
You're right.
And I see, it was a long time ago when my kids were little, but, going to the library in the summer and the summer library programs, they've only like bloomed and blossomed and all these, the parents getting the kids reading during the summer, all the programs that are available, I think this would just be a great supplement to that. The excitement in the library, bringing your kids there, having them pick out books. It's a really good time to get those reading skills. It's a really good time to reinforce those reading skills, and I think this will be a really good opportunity for them to, in addition to the print books that they may get at the community library, is to have access to even greater things. So they find something they really like at the community library, maybe they can look up on our catalog and see if we have something else by the same author or the same type of book. So that's what I hope, at least, for the summer.
No, I agree, it's invaluable to have, your parents to be able to go, well, let's go find a book online, no matter where you're at, on a plane, on the beach, you can kind of look something up and go over it with the kids, keep them reading.
My question was about the safeguards between different levels, so they addressed that one.
Yeah, my comments on it would be, you put together a really good presentation on it, kind of start to finish. Similar to what I was mentioning before, having that roadmap and the dots, this one really kind of starts connecting some of that for us, and highlighting an area within our schools that we didn't have this. So I think this is a great approach to it. Specifically curating it to our needs, working with teaching and learning, finding out what we're bringing in new curriculum. So we don't necessarily know what we don't know yet as far as gaps that may exist there. This could be a very efficient way for us to fill those as they come through, as we learn and build out the rest of that in totality. So I think this is going to dovetail really nicely with a lot of the projects we have going on in the district right now. It's a good step for sure to go in this direction. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time you took.
You're welcome.
Obviously,
you're
you
welcome.
spent a lot of time on all of this, so.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. All right.
Item B, reading pilot update number 6.
All right.
Did that come out?
What was that?
It's like a Star Wars saga.
We're almost there. So this is the 6th update, and there's 2 big pieces that I'd like to include with this update. First, I included some reading pilot data for you for how our 3 pilots performed with our students. And then the other piece is some information from the state of Wisconsin. On February 19th, the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction submitted a memo to the Wisconsin Joint Finance Committee, and it recommended 11 early literacy instructional materials to be approved for the Wisconsin's recommended resource list. So we had been waiting for the Early Literacy Curriculum Council, which was identified in Act 20 to identify resources. DPI also had the same power that the ELCC, or the Early Literacy Curriculum Council, had in recommending materials to the Joint Finance Committee. So the way that I understand it is DPI was monitoring the process that the Early Literacy Curriculum Council was using, and DPI felt that there were elements of Act 20 that were missing from the ELCC's process. So the DPI looked at it and looked at each one of the criteria that Act 20 outlines and identified curriculum that met all of those criteria. So now we wait for the Joint Finance Committee to make their decision on whether or not they're going to approve all 11 of the items or resources that DPI recommended, or the 4 resources that the ELCC recommended. There were 3 resources that overlapped on both of their lists. None of the ones that we looked at overlapped on both of the lists. And then there was one that appeared on the ELCC's list that did not appear on the DPI's list. So Wonders and HMH both are on the Wisconsin DPI's recommended list. Super Kids did not make the recommended list from DPI. It missed one criteria. So they shared a table of resources in the memo that's in the background. If you look at that, there's a table. There's one area where they said Super Kids did not meet the Act 20 criteria, and it was in oral language development. Super Kids is actively working with the Joint Finance Committee and submitted supplemental material for them to consider to show how they do meet oral language development within their resource as well. So as of right now, as it stands, there are 2 of our resources that are being recommended to the Joint Finance Committee for approval. Before I dive into the data that I shared around our reading pilot, are there any questions regarding the update from the state?
Jake, what was the original date that this was supposed to be decided?
December 1st. So Act 20 identified December 1st as the date that there would be the recommendations to the Joint Finance Committee so that districts would be able to move forward in making determinations for what resources they'd use next year. Going forward, I'm assuming this process is going to work a little bit faster if they decide that they are going to add to this list.
Can you speak to some of the process that the Learning Committee or the Learning Committee used versus what DPI used in rating the materials?
Yep. So the Early Literacy Curriculum Council, what they did was they used a rubric to assign scores to all of the areas that were identified by Act 20. So they weren't recognizing whether or not the resource, for example, focused on phonics. So what DPI did was, does the resource meet the requirements of teaching phonics in a way that is aligned with the science of reading? If so, DPI said, yes, it meets that criteria. The Early Literacy Curriculum Council gave it scores. So of the raters, depending on the resource, they said at least 7 people need to submit scores. So the committee of 9, they made sure that there was at least 7 scores, and then what they did was they took an average of all those scores. So for both HMH and Wonders, I have their rubrics that I can share with you if you'd like to see it. There were areas where a reviewer or multiple reviewers, 7 out of 8, may have said this resource meets criteria, and they gave it a 3. If one member of that committee said that they thought it was a 2, that it mostly met it but didn't quite do it sufficiently, that pretty much knocked the resource out of being on the Early Literacy Curriculum Council's approved list, because you had to have an average of 3 across the board. So if you look at their rubrics for both HMH and for Wonders, you'll see that there's a lot of 3s, there are some 4s, for most of the reviewers, and then there's a couple 2s that popped up, and because of that, their overall score for both of those resources were right around 2.8, so there were a few scores that fell below the 3 mark. So what the ELCC was doing was rating to the degree to which they thought that the resource was doing it, how well they were doing it. What DPI did was not necessarily measure how well they thought they did it, but whether or not the resource met the criteria of Act 20. Does it teach phonics in a way that is aligned with the science of reading? Does it make sure that it's outlawing 3Qing, like there's no evidence of 3Qing in the instruction that's provided to students through the resource? So the 9 independent reviewers gave them a score on how well they did it. The second piece of that is there was some struggle amongst the committee to create inter-rater reliability in that they never scored the resources together, and the committee mostly had access to digital resources versus the print. So because of that, if you listen to some of the discussions that they have, and all of them are public on Wisconsin Reads, you can look at the actual recordings of their discussions. You'll hear that in some of the reviewers that they said, well, once I started scoring, I then realized I needed to go back, but I couldn't change some of the scores that I had given to curriculums. Or there was debate in what people thought constituted a 3 versus a 4 versus a 2, and that happened after they scored versus beforehand. And often when you're trying to create inter-rater reliability, what you'd want to do is have that discussion on the outset to say, what are we looking for that constitutes it meeting criteria? So even without them going through that process, the majority of the scores that they received from the ELCC said it was a 3. There were just a couple of people who rated it a 2 in one or more areas, and that's kind of what knocked it off of being it on that list. DPI really looked at, does it meet the intent of what Act 20 is? DPI's rationale for why they did it that way was they considered all of the school districts in the state of Wisconsin, where everybody is at in terms of their understanding of reading and their ability to implement these programs. And what they said was, making sure that we go through this approach offers Wisconsin districts more local control over what they decide for their resources and what resources best meet students' needs. In addition to that, they will share what I have shared many times with this committee is it's not necessarily the resource that's going to move you over to making sure that all of our students are proficient readers. You can't just give them Wonders or HMH and then all of a sudden expect that our reading scores are going to pop up to, you know, astronomical levels. It's really the back end work that teachers are going to do to understand what are the best approaches to teaching reading, what are the ways in which they're using that resource with students, because that's really where it's, you know, the rubber hits the road, and that resource is either going to be effective with students or it's not. It's the professional development that we do, it's the outline that we provide in our curriculum plans to make sure that we're focusing on the things that students need.
That's why we have Jake, by the way. No, thank you for that in-depth discussion. I know we had touched on that in a private conversation. I think it's important for people to understand there were some rating issues around concept and design and process. And that's why we have these 2 lists now and what's going to happen and why this is drug out a little bit. My understanding is the stuff we do have ultimately rated well in both, and in some of it, it was that one outlier 2 that pulled it off that list. And I think as we move forward with the decision that we're going to have to make, I think we can articulate a discussion around 1 out of 7, but 7 agree or 6 agree,
Yep.
right? Like we can move forward with a pretty good
And
foundation there.
And I will preface this, when you think about what the Early Literacy Curriculum Council was tasked with, we took a year to look at priorities, identify what we were looking for in the resource, months of looking at resources to narrow it to 3, and then we spent another 4 months, now more, using it in classrooms with students. And they did not have curriculums in their hands until November, and they were supposed to produce this list at a high level, or a high rate, so they had to go through lots and lots of curriculum, so it was a challenging task on their part. So it's not for lack of trying, it's just they had a lot to look at in a very short period of time, which it could impact how well they were able to spend with any one of the resources. And they were doing it through primarily an online platform, which our teachers will tell you it's a lot harder to do that versus having the physical resources in your hands to kind of page through and see what's there. But yeah, I think both the ELCC, ultimately, they were, of the curriculums that they rated, Wonders and HMH were 3 and 4, or no, actually, I'll take that back, because they rated a couple extras. They would have been the 5th and 6th curriculums on their list, so they were the ones that just barely missed the cut. There's also another independent group that we had referenced when we were initially looking at these. Ed Reports rates all of the curriculums now on their alignment to the science of reading, and both HMH and Wonders score very high on the science of reading alignment that Ed Reports provides, equal to what you'll see from what's on the list that the ELCC produced. So CKLA is one of the resources that made it onto the ELCC's list, and its rating of its alignment to the science of reading is equally as high as what you'll see for Wonders and HMH.
To your point, I mean, obviously the curriculum is extremely important, but the thing about that is the teacher's ability to use it, the teacher's, belief in its use, and then ultimately the consistency that we're trying to build with using the same instead of having each class learn something else. So it's interesting to just keep moving forward and see where we wind up. But again, it's the teacher's commitment and their dedication to the, teaching the kids, and the curriculum is what's going to ultimately be the success of our students.
Excuse me, as far as some of the data that you provided, is there anything you want to draw our eye to?
Yeah, so I'll kind of explain what's in both of those tables. So
Sorry. And the other reason why I'm kind of cutting it, it's 6:17.
Yep, I'll start cooking here.
Yeah, sorry.
The kindergarten has to be looked at a little bit differently than the other levels. The reason being is we don't have a pre-post test for them. So really what I broke it out into is how many students scored in the high achievement level there. That's making an enormous assumption that all of our students came in as an equalized sample. So the kindergarten data is a little bit harder to look at, but you can see how well each one of our curriculums performed there. In the observed growth category, MAP will tell you the fall score to winter, how much they grew. One of the things that I'd like to point out is this is a very short time for reading development. So the data that we see here is very positive in terms of the fact that we're seeing growth that's beyond what we expected from our non-pilot classrooms. So our non-pilot classrooms were really used as a control to see if you're not under one of these curriculums, how well did you perform? And you can see at the 1-2 level, all of the pilot classrooms on average outperformed our non-pilot, and you can see that Super Kids and Wonders were pretty equal in terms of the amount of growth that they supported in students. And then at the 3-5 level, you'll notice that Wonders outperformed HMH in terms of its average growth. For MET growth projections, that's the second table. That's another way to look at this where you can sort of balance out our students who may have pulled those averages. So one of the complications of just looking at an average is you can have outliers that pull the data one way or the other. I tried to limit that in the analysis so that we didn't have one kid who made 40 points of growth because their pretest was messed up. That skewed our data. So I looked at all of it, made sure that there wasn't an outlier that was pulling our data one way or the other. But when we look at the growth projections, what that is just students who met what MAP said they should grow in that period of time. So from fall to winter, how many students made what we MAP determines as appropriate growth? And you can see there again, at the 1-2 level, our pilot classrooms outperformed our non-pilot rooms, and Wonders and Super Kids were very similar in terms of their performance. Likewise with 3-5, Wonders outperformed HMH.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see some of that, even though it's just a pilot format, it's not in fully integrated curriculum. So to see some of this growth
Yep.
in that regard shows a lot, right?
And these are brand-new Wonders users. So every time we met with one of the trainers, you'd hear one of our teachers say, "Oh, I didn't know that was in there," or "I didn't realize you could do that." So they were learning new elements of
Yeah.
these systems while they were doing it. So these are brand-new users to it, and sometimes with resources, you see an implementation dip where they're learning how to use it and they're not using it to its full capability, and then you start to see the growth afterwards. Here, we're seeing it pretty quickly that
As they grow into super users of this, I would think exponentially we can see.
and these,
Once again, short window we're looking at, but it's a very encouraging.
Yep.
Mr. Bryan?
Looking at the results, I think it's outstanding, some of the growth that we're seeing here. I think you've mentioned in the past, but can you spend maybe 30 seconds on your thoughts of, would it make sense to have one program for K through 2 and then a different program 3 through 5? Or is consistency more important and you'd want to have one curriculum across elementary?
Yeah. What I would need to see in the data to get me to the spot where I'd say 2 different programs are what would be more beneficial is that if there was some kind of extremes. For example, Super Kids outperformed everybody else by a large margin, that it would be hard to go away from anything other than Super Kids. Super Kids was very similar to Wonders in terms of its performance. The big benefit to consistency is, one, the training piece, that all teachers are getting similar training and there's vertical alignment. They can have conversations across grade levels in terms of the progressions that are expected. But another huge element of this is we have teachers on a regular basis who have to move grade levels. So in addition to everything else that they need to learn to switch grade levels, they'd be learning a new curriculum and a new system to move from 3rd grade to 2nd grade, which makes that that's additional stress, that's additional hardship that we would be putting on our teachers, that unless there was compelling data to suggest that this one was what was best for students over and above what we were already trying, that would be the thing that would push me to the direction to say, yep, let's use 2, because it really does meet our earliest readers better than the other ones.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Item C, KMS schedule update number 2.
All right, so Jessica Gearin, the middle school principal, and I have been working with a team. This is what I included here as a proposed schedule for you. In the schedule, you'll see on the top that there's the original Kennedy Bell schedule, and then kind of where we've landed in terms of what we would propose in terms of a new Bell schedule. So the time that had been a part of the SAS and IDR has been condensed, and it's now at the end of the day as opposed to the middle of the day, forming an advisory period. Within the schedule, you'll notice that there are these 45-minute blocks of time. The reason it's like that is because, let's just look at the 6th grade schedule. 2 of those 45-minute blocks would be combined to form your math class. So period 1 and period 2 could be math. Period 3 and period 4 could be literacy. And then period 5 could be science, 6 could be social studies. So within this schedule, what would eventually happen is for students, they would have those blocks of time put together to form the academic blocks that you see in the original schedule. The reason why it's not identified just yet is we're still working with the scheduling team to identify the best possible options for our coordinated arts classes. Part of that is space utilization and making sure that it's really coming down to gym usage to make sure that we have spaces for all of our students. So it gives you the framework for what the new schedule would look like, where we have math and literacy for 90 minutes, and then we would have science and social studies for 45, as well as the coordinated arts classes would be 45. That would be an increase of 5 minutes for coordinated arts and science and social studies, which was one of the big themes that Jess had heard when she had met with her staff, that she was looking to expand those blocks.
See, appears that it builds out a window of time at the end of the day. Is that kind of a catch-all? Run and meet with staff if you have questions. I guess, what do you envision that being?
Yep,
utilized?
so advisory becomes an opportunity for several things. Right now, the staff at Kennedy feels that the SAS part of the day is beneficial to students because it allows students to see teachers for additional support. There are also, this committee has talked about it, some additional programming that we have to do with students, often through our guidance program to meet particular needs or things that are mandated to us by the state of Wisconsin. That bit of time at the end of the day could be an opportunity where we could use that so that we don't impact core instruction or pull kids out of advisory. So it can be used for a number of things, so that additional programming plus an opportunity for students to meet with teachers, finish projects, work on homework at the end of the day.
Any questions? Tom?
I see there was 2 minutes added, ending at 2:45 instead of 2:43. Is that going to have a cascade effect on busing?
I think that adjustment there at 2:45, one, I don't think it does impact, but two, we're still working on adjusting the passing times a little bit because there's discussion around that. I would say the big core to this proposed schedule would be that 45-minute and 90-minute block times. The adjustments that you'll see between now and the next time that I bring the schedule to you will be that the cleaned up piece, so that one, you can see where those academic blocks actually fall, but two, there's some slight adjustments to the passing times that the team is still working out. 3 minutes, in their opinion, is a tough amount of time for some of our students to transition between classes, and then at other times it seems like more than enough for middle schoolers to be in the hallway. So it's the adjustments that we're making to those little pieces of the schedule at this point. The big rocks that we've tried to work through are identifying the core instructional blocks of being for math and literacy at 90, the science and social studies pieces being at 45, and then coordinated arts at 45. There won't be, this schedule we wouldn't make adjustments to this that would then have ramifications for busing or any of our other supporting services.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 6, unfinished business. We have none. Item 7, we're going to have 3 A, B, and C here. We'll start with A, education for employment plan approval.
All right. Again, tonight I have Ms. Alex Fisher with us to present the Education for Employment Plan. There are 2 big pieces that she's bringing to you in addition to the Education for Employment Plan. Our goal here is to bring the E4E, or Education for Employment Plan, to the full board with a positive recommendation tonight. But Alex would like to share with you both the portrait of the graduate that would be for external use that she had discussed last time, and then what it would look like for internal use.
Hello, thank you for having me again. As Jake mentioned, the E4E plan is within your board agenda. That is roughly the exact same as what it was as when I presented last time. The newest additions are the completed portrait of a graduate and readiness scorecard, both the external and internal documents. Thank you to our Director of Communication, Mandy Race, for creating these beautiful things, because I certainly couldn't. So this first one that's open is our external document. The purpose of this will be to communicate our mission and our vision around academic and career planning for our families as well as our students. There's a little blurb there about what the portrait of a graduate is, which is it's essentially the aspirations or values we want to instill in all of our students. And then our academic and career planning programming outlined in our E4E plan is the action steps we plan to use to support that, whereas the scorecard is the metrics we're using to measure our success. So the portrait of a graduate is this document that says Warhawks are soaring towards college, career, and life readiness. This is exactly the same as the last time I presented, only one statement was changed, and that's the A in the acronym. This was originally achieves, now I can't remember the original, but it was achieves their individuality or something along those lines, but we changed it to attains employability skills because we felt that original line overlapped with immerses in self-reflection, and we really wanted to hit on those employability skills as that's a foundation of academic and career planning. As you continue through the document, we identified indicators based off of state and national recommendations around college, career, and life readiness. So we broke it down in those categories and listed the indicators so that families can consider what are some items they should be examining to prepare their students for life after high school. Within the document, Mandy has included some of our own Germantown students and some snapshots, but we hope to only include Germantown students as we progress here. And that is primarily the external document, so if you want to transition to the internal.
I will have to find.
It's on that same presentation.
This one?
Go to the last, slide 5. And then item 3, yep, it's linked there. So the internal document is primarily going to be used by our administrative team and staff. It's the exact same, but when we get to those indicators, you'll notice it says meeting 3 of these indicators we would consider a student to be college ready. So putting more defined metrics on that, and continuing to the next page, we would start to measure that data. Again, this data is not accurate. They're just placeholder numbers right now because we wanted to get the document and data metrics approved first, as well as we're working to track this information in our student information system of Skyward. So there's some logistical pieces to navigate there. But we would then use the data that we collect every year in this scorecard to evaluate our academic and career planning programming, so that way we can make updates to our E4E plan. So while I'm asking for approval of the E4E plan today, please know that that is a continuously changing document because we are always striving to grow our programming for students. Are there any questions on the E4E plan, the portrait of a graduate, or the readiness scorecard?
Doesn't look like it.
No, I'm
You did
looking
a good
forward
job
to seeing it
preparing
in
us
use.
with the last
Yeah.
one, so.
Right, yeah.
Thank you. Easy enough.
Any discussion, further discussion? on
Are
this
you
topic?
looking for a motion?
If there's not, yes, I would be.
Make a motion to move forward with the positive recommendation to the full board to approve the education for employment plan, portrait of a graduate, and readiness scorecard.
Second?
Ms. Higginbotham with the motion for positive recommendation, Mr. Polk with the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that passes. B, summer school offerings and proposed budget.
All right, so it's starting to feel warm outside, so we can start thinking about summer. And tonight I bring to you the summer school offerings that we are proposing for this year's summer school. So there are new course proposals this year. Julia Leeson and I worked together with our teachers to seek their input on expanding our summer school program to see if there were any additional courses that they'd like to offer. One of the areas of need that we were looking at this year was expanding offerings for our 4K students. So you'll notice in the 4 options that we're providing, there are 2 more that expand the opportunities for our 4K kids because that's one area where our summer school programming is currently lacking in terms of what we have or could offer for them. So we wanted to make sure that there were offerings for them as well. So the 4 new course proposals that we have for this summer school session, the first one would be the American Sign Language Club. and this one would be open to grade levels 1 through 5. The second course offering that we're looking at is called Nature Art Exploration. So this is an opportunity for our students to fuse both an experience with art with being out in nature during the summer. And there are two additional courses that we're looking at for kind of expanding literacy options. So the first one is Stories in Art. So in this class, what students will do is they're going to be looking at specific stories, but then they're going to pair that with an art experience that goes along with it. And finally, the last course that we're proposing is Story Stretchers. And with Story Stretchers, what they're looking at there is familiar stories, but then what they want to do is link that to something additional. So that would include activities, music, movement, or some sort of play acting. In addition to that, you'll notice that for our summer school offerings, we're offering many of the same classes that we offered last year. There have been a couple of reductions to our offerings. Part of it has to do with space or our ability to find an instructor to effectively teach the course. In addition to that, similarly, at this point in the year, I bring to you the dates for summer school. The one significant change here is we're offering 2 sessions this year versus 3 sessions. We used to offer a 1-week session in between the start of summer school and the end of school, so it was that very first week out of school. One of the reasons why we reduced that is because of the courses that we offered during that time and the interest of instructors. It was really a set of classes that were very specialized, one of them being fishing. We offered another round of archery during that time. So the classes that we had generally used during that time, either A, we didn't have the legacy instructors that did that and didn't have anybody who was interested in continuing to teach that class. But then in addition to that, what we found was there was an impact on our main session enrollment because of that. So it was harder to create schedules for students because they had taken one of those 1-week offerings that was impacting them later on in those other 2 sessions. So we looked at this in terms of an efficiency for both staffing and making sure that we have classes. The biggest reason there is we frequently have to cut classes because we don't have enrollment, and this is a way for us to more or less condense enrollment into those 2 sessions to make sure that we can run more classes for our kids. The last piece of it that I'll go through is that there's an estimated budget, so this is similar to last year. The estimated salary and benefit is nearly identical to what it was last year that we were proposing. In addition to that, the material total that we have budgeted for all the supplies for summer school is very similar to what it was last year. At the end of the summer school term, like I did last year, I'll bring back that full report that includes an estimated state revenue that we bring in. Similar to last year, the estimated state revenue that we bring in exceeds what our proposed budget is.
Any questions? Mr. Lowell?
I'm just wondering if you can tell us anything about engineering adventures, what might be covered?
Engineering and adventure.
Just curious.
Are you interested in teaching the class?
I would, but I'm working.
I'm going to do my best to do this from memory because these aren't established curricular areas that I get to see throughout the school year. If I remember correctly, Engineering and Adventures, they do several small projects very similar to what you would see kind of in an elementary type engineering scenario where they'll make things like Rube Goldberg type devices or marble runs where they're trying to link together several pieces to complete an action.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can I know where the box is, I can haul out the materials for you so that I can send you some additional details on what's actually done in the class.
That'd be nice if you could. Don't spend a lot of time on it, but I'm just curious. The other one, maybe, Lego robotics. I'm wondering if any of this, you know, this sounds so interesting. I'm wondering if any of it could be videoed and maybe put on our website. You know, I think it might bring interest to tech ed in general, you know, for some of these things, and including what you were just talking about now, the Rube Goldberg projects can be very elaborate and very interesting.
Absolutely, that is a wonderful way for us to promote our program, is to provide both pictures and videos of what our kids are doing during the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited about the ASL club. I think that's a great idea, just because there are shortages of interpreters, and to get kids kind of interested early, and that builds throughout. It's invaluable. So I'm excited about that one. Hopefully, we get a lot of interest in it through the kids.
Yeah, it's nice to see an expansion, some new additions to the roster, so to speak. So, are we looking for a motion out of this? Am I missing it?
Motion to move forward with the positive recommendation to the full board to approve the summer school courses and proposed budget for 2024 as presented.
Second.
Senior Bentham with the motion, Mr. Pollack with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. C, item C, Discovery Education K through 5 resource.
All right, so this would be a resource that we are looking to purchase through Common School Library Aid. We already have a partnership with Discovery Education as a 6-12 resource, so we're using it both at Kennedy and at GHS. What we're looking to do is expand it to our elementaries. So earlier this year, we extended a pilot opportunity to our teachers to allow them access to see what the Discovery Education platform offered. There were several resources that they no longer had access to. And so this was to both fill that void that was left for what they were saying they were using those resources for, so extensions primarily for social studies and science, but then to provide their students another way to experience concepts. So Discovery Education provides video segments, so they don't have to watch the full video. They can get the one particular piece of the video that they're looking for. There's images to help support the understanding of concepts, and then in addition to that, Discovery also has reading passages that are accessible for teachers, so that they have some curated resources that can supplement the standards that they're trying to teach in their classrooms. The quote that's provided in here, it's $4,000 to extend that for a year for each one of the elementary buildings. So it's $4,000 a piece for each one of those buildings, for a grand total of $16,000 from Common School Library Aid.
Any questions?
I think, I'm just looking at the email you sent to us previous, confirming that there are content controls as far as filtering information if we find the need to. And also, there's one other thing here. So do we use a lot of the controls right now with the material that?
We currently don't. So Discovery Education was one of the resources that I inherited, and I don't know that we've looked to use it in that way. Once we looked at exploring it at the K-5 level, given that there are some, it really this spawns from the conversations that we had earlier this year. I worked with Discovery Education to ask them what are the additional content controls that we have. And they have one of the more robust systems that I've seen so far in terms of their ability for us to determine what content we're going to host through Discovery Education. So if there was a resource that we didn't want within the pool of resources that we were providing to our students, we can eliminate that on our end, and it doesn't pop up on anybody's search. So once we've determined we want to remove it, we can. So we can do that by keyword, we can do that by theme. If it was the case, it's not with this, but at the 612 level, what we could do is we could determine what materials would be available 6.8 versus 912. So that platform gives us the ability to moderate our content to make sure that it's accessible to the students that we want it to be accessible to.
This isn't replacing anything, it's gonna be in addition to.
This is in addition to, we did take some things out of the common school funds that our librarians, when they develop the budget for the year and thinking about what are the resources that we're going to provide. We did remove 2 resources that were kind of on the video content side of things. So it was providing students access to concepts through video clips and things like that. So 2 of those resources had been removed. So this, even though it's not to replace, this is in addition to kind of supplement a need that we had heard from our teachers. And really, the 2 areas where this could be used as a supplemental, although it does have resources for both reading and math, it's the science, social studies at this point in time that our teachers have communicated to me that they were looking for another way for students to experience a concept to develop a better understanding.
I think it's important to note, we were provided access to this program ahead of time. Jake and I talked on the controls side. I had a lot of those kind of questions, and it seems this is one of the I want to say easy, more robust abilities to set controls internally, section populations of age appropriateness, or however they determine to do it. The thing I really appreciated is discovery, right? So we had a high quality production content to it, which I think leads, anecdotally, I guess probably would lead to a little more engaged learning than some of the other resources we've seen in the past, where it was a little more hokey on the production side, which I think is valuable, adds value. I know there's been discussions in regards to this type of supplementary material, not only on this board and in this committee, but in the community, about potentially these types of things being removed and taken away. I'd like to add, some of that stuff was removed because the cost versus use wasn't aligning, and the goal for this is to cover a broader range of use at a reasonable cost as well, while maintaining that budget. So I'm excited for this to come in. Discovery is obviously a well-known entity in the world. I think we've all viewed or used it in some form, in some fashion at some point, right? So I think we can come in some good common ground with that. So thank you for continuing to look and bringing another item forward that I think we can really bring into the district for good use. Mr. Barney?
Assuming it gets approved, is your plan to still implement it later this year?
Yeah, our Discovery contract actually pops up in April, so there's an alignment between what we're doing at the high school and then what we would do at the elementary school. So as soon as we start it, teachers would have access to it, and then it will continue for a full year. Again, it would be a resource that's available through the library.
We're looking, sorry. Did you have a hand?
No, good.
We're looking for this to go to the full board or to finance, given the
So
purchase price?
the way that we've done it previously was I brought it to teaching and learning first, and then we would send it to finance, and then finance would send it to the board.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're sending it in the right direction with whatever motion we do here on this. Any other discussion in regards to it? With that, I'll look for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to provide a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to purchase Discover Education for $16,000 using Common School Library Aid.
I have a second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion, positive recommendation to the Finance Committee. Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That concludes our work. Covered a lot tonight. Appreciate a lot of the built-in information ahead of time in previous meetings helped us work through some of this stuff. Anyone that's viewing this meeting specifically on items A and C here and wonders why there's not a lot of discussion here is it's already happened in some pretty good depth in previous meetings. This was the final step in the process. So with that, I'll take item 8 on final motion.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion to adjourn. Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:51.
Welcome, everyone. It is 7 o'clock. I'm calling this Germantown School District Board of Education meeting to order. Please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Thank you. Item 2, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
You were with the
Well, should we
motion.
do the official meeting
You
notification
forgot
first?
meeting notification.
My bad. Official meeting notification.
Public notice of all meetings has been given by communication from the superintendent's office to the public, to those news media who have requested such notices, and to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Northwest Now, Express News, and West Bend Daily News. Public notice has also been posted in schools throughout the district and on the Germantown School District website.
Thank you. Item B, roll call.
Medved.
Here.
Ewert.
Here.
Barney is here. Loth.
Here.
Pollock.
Here.
Higginbotham.
Here.
And Brown.
Okay, now I think we can move on to item 2, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Mr. Ewert and Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Moving on to item 3, reports. Item A, district administrator update. Dr. Reuter.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight a few things going on in the district. Congratulations to all of our young actors. The Murderer on the Orient Express was a phenomenal play a few weeks ago. I know Mr. Barney was here, Ms. Higginbotham was here. I was just floored to watch. I saw the final show on Sunday, and from our set design to the production value, and it was an unbelievable performance, and just all of those kids. And Danny, our director, deserve a lot of credit. Heather here at the PAC for all the hard work. When I came here before Teaching and Learning Committee tonight, they were already starting to rehearse and get prepped for Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is our spring play. So looking forward to seeing that in production as well. And another highlight, our high school choir, Mr. Brooks's concert choir, will be performing with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra Wednesday down in Milwaukee. It's quite an honor, and we look forward to hearing and seeing pictures and from that event. Thursday night is the Germantown Community Scholarship Fund's annual dinner and auction that raises just a ridiculous amount of money for scholarships for our kids, and it all goes back to Germantown kids. So we thank them for putting that on, and anyone that's attending and donating to that great organization. And then the last item I had tonight, just for some conversation, Mr. Loth reached out to me about possibly doing building tours again this spring, and just wanted to get the thoughts of the entire board with, there's someone behind me, thoughts from the entire board on if you'd like me to follow the same process, or if you have feedback about that as we did in the fall, to look at any of those sites. And Mr. Loth, I didn't know if there's anything you wanted to add related to that.
I think it was last spring or near the end of the school year.
Was it, my years are blended together,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it was.
Last spring.
I think it was really, really at the tail end of the school year, and I kind of wanted to get it going a little bit earlier, while the weather is still maybe a little not so great on the weekends. Sure. And we're not out doing yard work. So I think it worked good, splitting it into 2 days. I can't remember just which schools we did on
We
which
did,
days.
I think, all 4 elementaries on one Saturday, and then the middle school and high school on
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I thought that worked good, so if we could do that, I would appreciate it, and I hope the rest of the board does also.
Any other feedback, or I'll follow the same process as last year?
I'd follow the same process.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Item B, Germantown High School presentation. Mr. Joe Farron and his Germantown High School administrative team. Welcome.
All right, yes, come on up. All right. So it is our turn to present, though we have home court advantage for pretty much every board meeting being in the PAC. So with me, you know who I am, Alex Fisher, who is our newest addition to the administrative team, David Smith and Andrew Rooney, both assistant principals. So a few things, go ahead, Dr. Ryder, or whoever has control. Just a few updates, and then what we have for you tonight dovetails into one of the agenda items that you'll see later. So just a few things. You were made aware there was quite a bit of information that came out after the state superintendent's visit. So that went extremely well with her team. You'll see a little bit of what the students presented that day in a little bit. Under athletics and activities, some information about our swim and dive team, wrestling team, and then 472 people attended Murder on the Orient Express, second best-selling play in Germantown. So the question is, what was the number one? Anyone know? I thought it would be Sound of Music because that was our first one. It was actually Clue. So this one came in second. And then for programming growth, youth apprenticeship enrollment has doubled for next year. Be on the lookout for expanding things dealing with industry credentials. And then we'll have our first all-school career fair. You'll get an invite to that on May 21st. Okay, and just if you want to, that's fine, yep. Okay, just a few things, and then we want to hear from a couple of our students. So first of all, I want to thank the board for approving the ACP Coordinator, Dean of Students position back in the winter of 2022. I was at that meeting. I remember in public comment, there were some comments about they'll never do any of this ACP thing because they'll just be dealing with behavior issues. I think you've seen in committee, you'll see tonight, and you'll hear from students the value of that position. So I want to thank the board for approving that back in 2022. That led to Mr. Smith being the first person in that role, and he did that for 4 months before becoming the assistant principal. Then Mr. Rooney was hired, and he did that for 2 months before becoming the interim assistant principal and then the assistant principal. So now we have Alex Fisher, who was the longest-term ACP coordinator dean, and she's done incredible work these last 6 months. I think you'll see, you've seen some if you were in committee and looking at ACP, you're going to see a lot tonight. All of this is good for kids, and so if we get transition, we have 2 students who, they did videos because they are at DECA right now, and Mr. Loth, I know how much you love acronyms, so that's the Distributive Education Clubs of America. They are in Lake Geneva, 1,600 kids from the state of Wisconsin, 20 from Germantown, and both of our speakers tonight have done extremely well in the past. We wish them luck as they do that, but they will give you some information on the programming at this time.
Hello, members of the board. The following is the address made to State Superintendent Dr. Underly from the Western team. Hi, Dr. Underly. I am Arjun Chopra, a senior here today to represent the DHS Fitness program. I am a student, first and foremost, but I also participate heavily in various athletic and extracurricular activities, like FDLA, DECA, Student Council, and Forensics. Looking toward the future, I plan to attend a four-year university to study political science and economics, and eventually move on to law school. Hopefully, I can use my education to help those in need and create a positive, lasting impact on my community. Of my clubs that I've participated in, FDLA and DECA have allowed me to explore my interests in these majors the most. In FDLA, for example, I've competed in both the political science and economics categories, and I won a state championship in political science. In DECA, I participated in the business law and ethics category with a friend, and last year we qualified for the International Career Development Conference. The business teachers at the school advise both clubs, and they have excellent sources of training, constructive criticism, and positive feedback. All 3 of which have developed my confidence in public speaking and analytical decision-making, with a host of other students. Their dedication to empowering students extends into the classroom as well. The business classes I have taken, such as personal financial literacy and international business marketing, have been well taught and have provided me with information about the financial world at both the household and global levels. For my desired career path, the business program, as well as classes like AP Economics and AP United States History, have been tremendously helpful thus far. I've also taken 2 dual enrollment classes, Calculus 3 through Milwaukee Area Technical College, and Spanish 5 through UW-Oshkosh. The dual enrollment program at GHS is robust and allows talented students to challenge themselves with any rigorous coursework and the additional demands of college education. These classes have shed light on the academic side of the college experience for thousands of students, thus providing an early indicator of how life will be for the next 4 years. Overall, my time at GHS has been productive, and I am extremely happy with the quality of education. From the top down, our administrators do a fantastic job managing the school. Our teachers supply remarkable educations that are tailored specifically to each student's individual needs, and the 4 years spent here equip each person with the tools necessary to succeed in the future. Additionally, the business program has been especially valuable to me and many others, and I am grateful to say that I am one of them. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Angela Jang, and I'm a senior at Georgetown High School. After graduation, I'm looking to pursue a career in pharmacy. Currently looking at Georgetown Madison's early trans pharmacy program, which would allow me to become a doctor of pharmacy in 6 years rather than 8. We'll see how that goes. But obviously, this would not even be a realistic goal for me if I hadn't been so well prepared by my teachers throughout high school. And I had the opportunity to take a variety of challenging courses in a variety of subject areas throughout high school. Some of my favorites were AP Chemistry with Ms. Collins, which introduced me to a lot of chemistry concepts that I would definitely be seeing on my path to pharmacy. Currently taking AP Biology with the shares. It's always so engaging, so interesting. I love biology. Lastly, I wanted to talk about Ms. GW's PLPW Environmental Sustainability class. It's more laid back than the first two, but it has introduced me to lots of lab skills that I will be using in lab work in college. I've also had the opportunity to earn college credit all throughout high school. Starting as a freshman, I'm taking AP exams every year, and my sophomore year, I took a nursing assistant course at Park Technical College. The following summer, I took Managing Physiology 1 at UW Milwaukee. I'm currently taking Spanish 5 through UW Oshkosh PAC program, and I'm also taking the Project Lead the Way Environmental Sustainability exam at the end of this year, hopefully in Georgia as well. Beyond academics, I've been a part of 27 student activities at GHS these past 4 years. I've done things from music to sports to volunteering and much more. But the one activity that has impacted me the most is COSA Future Health Professionals. COSA is a career and ethical student organization for pre-health students. And through COSA, I had the opportunity to explore career options through competitive events, earn certifications such as CPR and first aid, network with students and professionals from across the world, and even participate in CPSO advocacy in DC and in Madison. And beyond career development, HOSA has also helped me grow so much as a person. I started my HOSA journey as a freshman. I was super shy and as a virtual student, so I was sitting in this exact spot when I logged onto Google Meets for the first Germantown HOSA interest meeting. And it's crazy to think that I'm sitting in this exact same spot now, but I'm looking forward to facilitating a state leadership conference this April for over 3,000 students alongside my state officer team. One of my greatest honors has been serving as a state officer for Wisconsin HOSA this past year. As the Vice President of Public Relations, I get to create graphics and videos for Wisconsin HOSA social media, as well as assist with developing unique and engaging programming for our state membership. Looking broadly at CPSOs, they all have this competitive aspect that I really enjoy. I've been a 2-time state champion in pharmacy science for HOSA, and I've also placed nationally in the top 10 for FBLA's healthcare administration events. And in terms of real-world healthcare experience, I have earned my CNA certification, and I work at a long-term care facility in Penn for almost a year. And although I don't intend to go into nursing, it's given me valuable insights on patient care and just what healthcare is like in general, and it's been a really valuable experience. There's so many other amazing experiences that I could ramble on and on about, but I just want to end this by saying that I'm truly thankful for all the resources and opportunities that those students at GHS, for
for short people, sorry. Okay. So we wanted to highlight those students because they're the example of why we do academic and career planning in Germantown and across the state and across the country. Academic and career planning are all of the opportunities we offer our students to give them a peek into what life may be like after high school so they can develop their post-secondary plans, from the dual enrollment credits to the industry-based credentials, to the courses that are offered to our students, the organizations they can get involved in. That prepares our students to be successful graduates after high school. So the Education for Employment Plan is a big piece of how we prepare our students for those post-secondary plans. The E4E plan is a state mandate under PI 26 that we approve every year, so that is on your docket this evening. It outlines all of the components of ACP that we provide for students and is an ever-changing plan. So while we're asking for its approval this evening, please know that it will consistently change from year to year as we evaluate our programming. Within that E4E plan will be our Portrait of a Graduate as well as our Readiness Scorecard. The Portrait of a Graduate is our vision and mission for the values and attributes we want to instill in all graduates. So if you click on the external use version, this is what we'll share with families and our students on what we would identify as a Germantown graduate. There's a bit of an explanation of the Portrait of a Graduate itself, which is basically answering the question, are Germantown graduates prepared for whatever their post-secondary plans may be? And academic and career planning programming is the vehicle we use to get them there. Whereas the readiness scorecard will be how we evaluate ourselves as a district to determine what are our areas for growth and what are our strengths. This piece here is the actual Portrait of a Graduate. So upon graduation, we would hope that all students are soaring towards college, career, and life readiness, where SOARING is an acronym for each of the attributes, dispositions, and values we want to instill in all of our graduates by the time they leave here. So strives to grow academically, with the key word being grow, as we want all students to progress within their academics, orchestrates future goals and plans. So that's really the heart of ACP, having an end goal in mind for the time that they leave us. Attains employability skills, so all the skills students need to be successful within future jobs, responsibly carrying out their civic duties. So the basic civic duty I think of is just the simple act of registering to vote, and I think that's where like the parental and community piece comes into play. Immerses in self-reflection, so always aiming once again to grow and reflect on how they can improve. Navigating finances responsibly, so we're really ahead of the game in Germantown for that piece, being that we offer financial literacy as a graduation requirement, which is now a state mandate for the class of 2028, and then grows in 21st century skills, so the skills that all students need to be successful in today's society, such as digital literacy. To really define what is college, career, and life ready, we developed some indicators that are based off of state and national metrics to help guide parents and families of things to consider as their students are moving on whatever path they choose after high school. So you'll see for the academics a myriad from dual enrollment to Algebra 2 course grades to AP classes. In the Career Ready, you'll see a focus on workplace learning experiences and industry-based credentials, as well as community service. And in the life component, this becomes a little more subjective because it's more based off of what we value as a school community, so attendance, our personal financial literacy, and then being a concentrator in either fine arts, CTE, or world language to ensure that we're measuring a robust amount of programming for our students. The external version will be used, as I stated, for primarily our families and community, whereas the internal version will primarily be used as a building to evaluate areas we can improve in our academic and career planning. In that document, it looks almost exactly identical. The only difference is the metric component that we have included. The metrics or the data is not accurate. We are working on pulling that from our student information system, but wanted to get the metrics in front of the board for approval first before we start to pull some of that information. So these are the three main items that will be brought in front of you later for your possible approval.
It says, we talked about the data not being currently ready. Do we have any idea of when we think that we'll be able to integrate the actual data so we start getting?
By the end of this school year, so that way we can evaluate this summer what our next steps are for the beginning of the school year. We do have some tentative data that reflects past information we've collected. It doesn't include every single component that's listed on our scorecard, but in our E for E plan, I've included 2 snapshots of 2 prior years of graduates with academic data. So those materials that you saw were so beautifully put together by our Director of Communication, Mandy Race. She does a much better job than I ever could. But that portrait of a graduate and readiness scorecard work will really be the mode in which we begin communicating with our students, staff, and families about academic and career planning. As I stated, the external version will primarily be for families in the community and students, and the internal version will be used by staff to evaluate our programming, but we plan to use those documents to showcase student stories, kind of like you saw today through the lens of academic and career planning. And then we plan to do a marketing campaign, we'll call it, around our academic and career planning, both in school and outside of school. Mandy will also begin posting regularly about some of the academic and career planning happening on social media as well as our website. And these are just some snippets of possible displays from the portrait of a graduate that we would see at school. The student in the middle and the student on the right side of the screen are GHS students. The one on the left is just a snapshot. We hope to continually update these with our current students to be the true faces of our portrait of a graduate. And these are just some more examples of what this may look like on social media. So with that, you will see more of this information later this evening as it's brought for approval of the board, but I hope this gives a general representation of the value of academic and career planning and a general representation of academic and career planning, and I hope that you support this initiative.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Mr. Vogt.
I was just wondering about that 90% or better attendance. I think it's 180 school days, would be 18 missed days. I graduated just a few years ago, and I think I missed less than 18 days for 4 years of high school. So I'm just wondering, is that a real number there, 90% or better? Or?
That 90% is recommended based off of state and national metrics. That's where we came up with that number. But we also, while truancy is the example of all or part of 10 days where we start to evaluate student attendance, we also have to be understanding that, some students do go on medical leave, some students do take several college visits, some students do go on field trips, and those things count towards that attendance measurement. So we want to make sure that there's a little leeway in there where we're not penalizing students for having some extenuating circumstances.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Ewert.
I'm just going to reference this presentation you just saw to make my update a little easier. In the evening, you'll be receiving a positive recommendation from the Teaching and Learning Committee around the program you just saw. So I will leave the information she just provided with us all for that update.
Perfect, thank you.
And just to conclude, again, I want to thank the board for approving that position. I think you can see the work that's been done in the last 2 years. All of them have had a part in it. It's really been amped up, and seeing some really great things coming from this. So we'll conclude with that.
Yeah, and thank you for giving the students' perspective. I think that really helps to hear from them how this affects their life, because that's what's important to us. Thank you again. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to Item 4. Melissa, just to verify, we did not have anyone sign up tonight? Okay. Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Item A, approval of January 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. Item B, approval of teacher resignations. Mr. Noah, if you want.
We have no resignations.
Okay. And item C, approval of teacher contracts.
We have 2 contracts to bring forward. First, Skylar Hine, science teacher from GHS. It's being recommended for this position as a result of a resignation. This is a 1.0 limited term contract for 88 days at $20,843. Next, we have Annie Wilbanks, English teacher, GHS, and is being recommended for this position as a result of resignation. This is a 1.0 limited term contract for 81 days for $17,585. We ask that you approve both.
Okay, thank you. And finally, approval of donations. Dr. Ritter.
We have a long list this evening, like usual. We want to thank the Germantown High School PTA for $300 towards Germantown High School Forensics, Brady Corporation, $300 towards the Germantown High School Choir, an anonymous donor of $1,420.02, the Rockfield School Art, Music, and Phy-Ed teacher request to benefit all students, Douglas Masham, $1,001 to the Germantown High School Environmental Club for the Greenhouse Project, the Croat family, $1,500 for the Germantown High School Athletic Department for football sound system, Germantown Athletic Booster Club, $2,500 to the Germantown High School Athletic Department for football and soccer sound system, the Kennedy Middle School PTA, $2,500, which are the rest of the funds for the Crusader Room at KMS, and the project is to start June 12th, 2023. The Germantown Athletic Booster Club, $11,254 for one soccer shelter at the Germantown High School soccer field. An anonymous donor of $2,153.98 to the Germantown High School for girls soccer apparel. The Grand Foundation, Grand Appliance, $500 to the Germantown High School Choir. And Patrick Preddy, $1,195 to GHS Track and Field Program for purchases of a pair of high jump standards.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
Mr. Barney with the motion, Mr. Pollak with the second. Any discussion?
Yes. That is almost $25,000 in donations. We have an awesome community that keeps giving back.
Yeah,
Thank
much
you to all those
appreciated.
donors.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Moving on to item 6, Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pollak.
Yes, we met earlier this month. Mr. Lord provided an update regarding all the work that the Buildings and Grounds team has completed from roughly the middle of December through early February. Specifically, he did go through his work order report where I found it to be pretty good as far as the extremely large majority of the work order requests were completed within 10 days. There were very few that were quite lengthy. However, those that were lengthy had reasons behind waiting for materials or other types of things like that that may have delayed those. He also went through a larger project recap. Those were projects that have been worked on and completed thus far. He also provided a list of expected work that will be completed soon. One thing that I mentioned, because it was part of the donor list as well, the doors allowing access to the courtyard at Germantown High School has been completed. So that's a big first step in gaining access to that hopefully soon to be usable space. He also went through something that I will mention here in just a moment, the 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Lord presented the committee with the expected capital improvement plan for the next 5 years, and if it were to be approved by the board, the plan itself will be posted on the Germantown School District website for public viewing. That being said, I'd like to bring a motion with a positive recommendation to the full board to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan as presented during our meeting.
Very good. That comes with a positive recommendation. Does not require a second. Any discussion?
Does anybody have any questions? I think, yep, Mr. Lord is here if anybody has any specific questions for him to address.
No, I like the five-year capital plan. I think the way that we've developed it and changed it over the last few years, very helpful to be able to see exactly what the projects upcoming will be and be able to budget for it. I know business appreciates that, being able to figure this out. So good plan and good updates. We appreciate you. And it's flexible. We are able to change it as we need to. So much appreciated. All right. Anything further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Anything else, Mr. Pollock?
That'll be it.
Okay. Moving on to Finance Committee, Mr. Lowe.
Yes, the Finance Committee met on February 12th at the district office. We approved the vouchers. And we also had a presentation from Steve Krecklau on the TID projects that are going on in the community. So tax incremental district number 6 is the one just off of Appleton Avenue and a little bit south of Mequon Road. Tax incremental district number 7 is J.W. Speaker, and number 8 is north of Holy Hill Road. I guess I forget which the east-west road is out that way, but just Goldendale. Okay, good. And there is a number 9 that's being, there wasn't really a report out on that, but that one is under construction now, and it's just to the east and south of the district office. Steve actually gave us a bit of a glowing review saying that there's a lot of companies that do wish to move to Germantown because of the school district. And I'm not making that up, he actually said that. Okay, next item was Brittany's variance report. And moving on to full board item 7B, it was the 2023-2024 budget adjustments. Basically, number of items that have come up. Actually, at the moment, we are ahead on the budget, to the good side of things, but adjustments come and there will be more adjustments next month, the month of March. So anyway, the Finance Committee brings forward to the Board of Education with a positive recommendation to approve the 2024-2025 facility. Sorry about that. Wrong page. The Finance Committee brings forward to the Board of Education with a positive recommendation to approve the 2023-2024 budget adjustments.
Okay, that comes with a positive recommendation. Does not require a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Okay, full board item 7C, 2024-2025 facility use fee schedule. Essentially what has happened is we had a lot of changes last year. There were no changes to last year's changes, so really we've got the same thing going as we had last year. So the Finance Committee brings forward to the Board of Education with a positive recommendation to approve the 2024-2025 facility use fee schedule.
Thank you. That comes with a positive recommendation. Does not require a second. Any discussion? Mr. Ewing.
I just want to thank you guys for that. I was able to attend the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting and provide them with an update that there would be no changes. They were thrilled. That conversation also happened between Mr. Reuter's staff, Brittany's office, and some of the staff over at Parks and Rec prior to me being able to report it. So we're building that communication piece in, but they were happy to receive 0 on the adjustments.
Okay. Very good, thank you for that. I did not know that myself.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Okay, full board item 7D is the 2024-2025 student fee schedule. Items were minor, there were a few additions, and in some cases, $5 or less on the increases. So the Finance Committee brings forward to the Board of Education with a positive recommendation to approve the 2024-2025 student fee schedule with the addition of lifeguarding fee of $90 to $97. Did we confirm that, or it's still in that range? It's in that range.
It was 90, we're asking it to be 97.
Oh, okay. Okay, it moved from $90 to $97. Sorry about that.
Okay, that comes with a positive recommendation. Does not require a second. Any discussion? Mr. Byrne?
Just for clarity, the lifeguarding fee is going up because the cost of the program is going up. It's not us taking extra money to keep, that's what we're paying for the program.
Sure. Ms. Brown?
I think there was just a couple other adjustments up.
Correct.
Yeah, those were all in the list.
Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Okay, and the last item is full board item 7E, and this is the JV and softball field work. The JV baseball field is at Germantown High School, and the JV softball field is at Kennedy Middle School. We bring forward, the Finance Committee, a motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the full board to approve the JV baseball and softball field work using Midwest Athletic Fields LLC in the amount not to exceed $29,440 funded using Fund 41.
Thank you. That comes with a positive recommendation. Does not require a second. Any discussion?
Just to point out, this is part of the 23-24 capital project list.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the project. It looks like all of our fields are getting a little bit of love, which is good because I think there's a lot of safety issues that are involved in what they're fixing. So much appreciated. And again, back to the other fields, the donations to help are much appreciated as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
And that was it for finance.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, Personnel Committee. Mr. Ebert.
Personnel Committee met on the 12th, and we had several subjects on the agenda. We discussed some of those already tonight in the consent agenda with improving 2 contracts. There were no resignations. We did receive a staffing update. Those conversations, I would recommend a review of that. You just need the cliff notes, and we've already handled some of that business tonight. Bigger ticket item on the agenda from that evening was the compensation study update. Mr. Nolak and Mr. Reuter both presented in regards to that. That was the 3rd phase of the compensation study involving listening sessions with our internal staff. So they broke the staffing up into 3 different sections, 1 to 6 years, 7 to 12 years, and 13 to 20 years, kind of recognizing those date ranges probably have unique needs and perspectives in regards to where they're at in their career and advancement as far as compensation is concerned. They were able to facilitate some good dialogue, provided us with a lot of the notes taken during that time. I'd recommend checking out the packet. You'd see quite a bit of information in there that the staff was able to provide up for us to take a look at. It didn't seem, the notes that we were provided from those listening sessions seemed to be the raw notes. Didn't seem anything was edited out of context, we were able to discuss some of the context of the issues that were brought forward, or concerns, or priorities that some of these sessions brought forward. I apologize, there was a 21 plus as well, a fourth bracket for that. So this is the fourth stage of the study. We're looking forward to Mr. Reuter and Mr. Nowak's office bringing forward a comprehensive plan in regards to compensation from this. Once again, this is the end stage. We've studied the surrounding and comparable districts, our own budget, as well as listening to the staff in regards to their concerns and desires. We don't have a recommendation coming at this time. They'll bring that plan forward. Kind of note that came out of it, some of the listening session, we're tasked with dealing with managing two different generations of employees, maybe even three really, given where our staffing levels are at. So they're going to kind of take that into consideration, and what kind of compensation can we offer some in the later portion of their career that would align with their planning that they've participated in for their career, some in the middle, and then what kind of tools can we offer in the ones in the beginning of their career, and how does that work within our budget constraints. We're looking for a totality of that package to come back as a presentation to us at a later date. I don't think it would necessarily be next month.
We're working on something right now. It might be advantageous to have it for our one board meeting without a committee, unless we had a committee meeting the same night in March, since it's the third week of March. So at the latest, it would be April for board action.
The final report we received was on co-curricular compensation. Similar, but probably not quite as in-depth as the compensation study is. They looked at our co-curricular staff wages and kind of compared them, started doing an analysis around the historical data behind where we were at, where we are at, and what the surrounding communities are also invested into those areas. So we received a report on that. Further, would say best to refer to that meeting to see the totality of that conversation. But that is all I have for personnel.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Okay, moving on to item 9, teaching and learning.
We did that tonight, just before this. It was a pretty lengthy meeting. There was quite a bit of information covered in it, some of which we were able to go over quite quickly, but that was more due to preparation in prior meetings and the depth of information and knowledge that was built throughout several meetings. So I'll just start at the top. We received a report regarding a 3-year school library plan, and that's really putting in the framework for where our libraries are at and where we would like them to be within 3 years, and how they can best suit I'm losing my words here. I have my notes. How they can work best with teaching and learning and support our educational staff and our students in the best learning process possible. They had several goals, and that may come back in potentially a tweaked form to take a look at what they gave. They provided us some information from DPI and what DPI looks for, and where we're reflecting some of that initiative within, and then a couple of goals on where we'd like to implement moving forward. The board or the committee itself gave some feedback in regards to maybe a more clarifying path for those 3 years, some objectives and goals that we can measure and see being met, or if we come off course, we'll redirect back on. The second thing they brought in was K through 5 digital library plan, digital media plan. Presentation that we received was very well thought out. It provided the information as to why we would like to go in that direction, and some of the resources that we would use at SOAR. It allows us, the program itself allows us to build and curate that collection ourselves. There was another option, which was joining a consortium throughout the state and just have a full access to what that is. But they chose to present an option that would allow us, well, probably a little more expensive, would allow us to curate it ourselves and have a little more control and segment based off a grade level, who has access to what within it, which I think echoes a lot of what we've seen in the community, heard in the community, as far as what we'd like to see out of that program. They did a great job with that. For more information on that, I would refer you again to the meeting itself. Third, KMS schedule update. It sounds like it's a work in progress. Jake was able to present on that, showed us an example of what we currently have and what we're potentially moving to. No decisions are made on that yet. Extended minutes for math and English, a couple other programs throughout there, and then the removal of IDR and SAS in the middle of the day to a resource period towards the end of the day, kind of as a catch-all to allow for longer periods of concentrated subject matter. So we're looking forward to that to be finished up. It sounded like some timing issues were still being worked out. With
Next
that.
month.
What's that?
In March, we should be able to bring the completed schedule.
Thank you. Yeah, so March we'll see that, hopefully. And then we had 3 new business items. The Education for Employment Plan approval. We just saw a great presentation on that. We received a similar one, slightly more in depth in committee. We've seen it in prior committee meetings as well. Does anyone have questions before I'm going to bring forward a positive well, we'll do that. So our committee will bring forward a positive recommendation to the full board to approve this. Bring forward a positive recommendation for a positive recommendation of the Education for Employment Plan approval to the full board.
Okay, that comes with a positive recommendation, does not require a second. Any questions, comments?
Just like to make a final comment on the Education for Employment Plan. I think so often we get so ultra-focused on GPA. And then what I like about this is it highlights that that's not just what an individual looks for. And in preparing for our students for college beyond after high school, that all these other things matter. So being involved in extracurriculars, programs, that all develops our students as individuals. And so that's what I really like about this. And I'm really looking forward to getting all of the information up, because as a district and building our district for our students, for our community, for everything, this will give a highlight where we're doing well and the things that we need to work on. So this is just invaluable to our district and growing it for our community and for our students. So very much looking forward to it, and thank you for all the work you've put into it. And again, highlighting that it's not just our GPA, it's important, but there's so much more that goes into an individual and their and how they affect their community and around them. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. This is a program that we've had for a long time. My kids were part of that, but I like that we've upgraded it and are continuing to edit it and make it even better than it was. I think a lot of times it answers the question, why am I learning what I'm learning? And having a perspective of what happens after school helps you understand why you're doing what you're doing now. And I think that's very important for our students to understand that. So I appreciate all the hard work on this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Board agenda C here. It's our head of report and discussion on summer school. It sounds like we're going to be removing the initial third session, so we'll focus on our core 2 sessions. We are also going to be adding a couple of things to programming: ALS, the American Sign Language Club, nature of art exploration, stories and art, and story stretchers. That will be in addition to what we were offering prior. Estimated, I'm just going to kind of go into some of the estimated costs on this end. So estimated salaries, $140,000. Estimated materials totals, $10,000. Estimated total, $150,000. So as we offer summer school to our community, it's a vital part of our educational process that we do. We can see it does come with a bit of a price tag. For us to do that, removing that first section and rolling it into our main 2 sections will help us kind of manage that cost along with more in-depth programming. So with that, let's go up to my motion. Bring forward positive recommendation of the full board approval of the summer school courses and proposed budget for the 2024 as presented.
Thank you. That comes with a positive recommendation. Does not require a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
And that is all I have for you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10, new business. Item A, discussion and action to approve KMS FBLA overnight travel request. Dr. Winter.
Thank you. You'll see that our middle school FBLA team, Future Business Leaders of America, qualified, and they found out just about a week ago that they had qualified for the state competition. That's why you'll see the date on here as it's taking place right now. In the future, I spoke with Mrs. Unerdal and our secondary admin staff about instances like this that happen, and we don't have a board meeting prior, that I would ask, and it's usually within the co-curricular clubs like this, it's not a WIA sanctioned sport, that they, knowing if they have a quality team, they ask for overnight travel in advance when we put contingency language on there, and then we can bring to the full board the number of students in the itemized out report, but you've already approved per board policy the possible overnight travel if qualified. So before we move forward with this tonight, I just wanted to address that so that we don't, since I've been superintendent, I think this is the second time this has happened, and happened previously when I was director of teaching and learning, that wherever the board meeting falls, if it falls after the event, we're at the mercy of, we have to let them go without calling a special board meeting and going through that entire process. So tonight I'm asking that you approve the trip for the 19 students and 2 advisors and the costs associated with it for the competition that took place the last 2 days.
Yeah, I guess the good news is we're having success, so the reason they're moving on and going to these competitions is because they're winning and doing well. So appreciate the update on that. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to,
Go ahead.
motion to approve the overnight travel request for 19 students and 2 advisors to travel to the Wisconsin Dells from February 25th through the 26th, 2024, to attend the FBLA state competition as presented.
Second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion, Mr. Barney with the second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Barney.
Dr. Reuter, maybe we should add that policy to our next policy committee meeting just to make sure we've got the right language in there to account for situations like this.
Good idea.
Yeah, I don't think we'd have a problem knowing they're going to a competition, that if it moves on, there would be an overnight travel request, and we approve it. I think that'd be okay. Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item B, discussing an action to approve GHS HASA Future Health Professionals overnight travel request. Dr. Rick.
So this one's well in advance. It's April 14th through the 16th. It's to have 29 of our students and 2 advisors head to the Chula Vista in Wisconsin Dells for the HOSA Future Health Professional State Leadership Conference. Actually, one of our presenters via the video tonight was speaking about that, and she'll be attending that as well. So you see how the breakdown here of the cost for that and transportation. So we're asking for approval this evening so that from April 13th to the 16th, those 29 students and 2 advisors can participate.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the overnight travel request for 29 students and 2 advisors to travel to Chula Vista in Wisconsin Dells from April 13th to the 16th, 2024, to attend the HOSA State Leadership Conference as presented.
Second.
Mr. Barney with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Mr. Lowe.
HOSA.
I didn't write this one down, Mr. Loth, but when I did a quick scan on my computer a minute ago, it did state that it is the Health Professionals Network, HOSA. I can't remember off the top of my head what that stands for, though. Because people looking to go into the medical field, like the presenter we had seen via video.
I did hear that in the video. And, I did not look this one up in advance.
On their website, it says HOSA, and then it says Future Health Professionals. They don't really define.
Health Occupation Students of America.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barney.
You're welcome.
It's a team effort up here.
Tom's our official Google board representative. Okay, very good, thank you.
No, that helps because I hadn't heard that one either. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item C, discussion and action to approve teacher retirements. Mr. Noah.
Thank you. We have 5 teacher retirements that have been submitted at the February 15th deadline. The first is, and I'll go through them, they've all asked for approval tonight. The first is Dawn Christensen. Dawn has worked in the Germantown School District for 26 years as an art teacher at Kennedy Middle School. Prior to her time in Germantown, she worked in various substitute teaching positions in Waukesha, Menominee Falls, Brookfield, Sussex, and Germantown. Bruce Enlick. Bruce has worked in Germantown for the past 35 years, including 1 year at Rockfield, teaching 1st grade, and 34 at County Line, teaching 3rd grade. Jeff Gillen. Jeff has taught at Kennedy Middle School for the past 24 years. His teaching career also includes 7 years of teaching in Port Washington. John Osazenik. John has taught in the Germantown School District for the last 20 years, 16 years at Amy Bell, and 4 years at County Line. His teaching career also includes 13 years of teaching in Plymouth, West Bend, and Mayville. And finally, John Parrish. John has taught technical education at Kennedy for the last 25 years. In addition, he also worked for 4 years in the St. Paul School District in Minnesota. Combined, these 5 teachers have 130 years in the Germantown School District. In speaking with each of them, they're very excited about the next step in their lives, but at the same time, there's always a little nervousness when you consider the amount of time that's been committed to the profession, and in this case, to Germantown. So we're very happy for them, and we ask for your approval of their resignations. And retirements.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request for retirement at the conclusion of the 23-24 school year for Dawn Christensen, Bruce Enlick, Jeff Gillen, John Osazenik, and John Parrish, and thank them for their many years of service to our district.
Second.
Ms. Higginbotham with the motion, Mr. Pollock with the second. Any discussion? I would just like to say that knowing these teachers well, all of my kids have had them at some point, it's bittersweet. And I think I can feel a little bit of their pain. You know, they've been here for a long time and have contributed a lot to this district. You know, these names are synonymous with Germantown, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt Germantown, but good for them. We congratulate them and wish them the best in their next steps.
I'd like to wish each and every one of these teachers a happy, healthy, safe, and warm retirement, and thank you for your service.
Okay, anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you, Mr. Nowak. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 1E to deliberate or negotiate the public purchase of public properties, the investment of district funds, or conduct other board business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Item 1, discuss the negotiations for certified staff.
So moved.
Motion is stated.
Roll call.
Medved,
Yes.
Ewert,
Yes.
myself, yes. Loth,
Yes?
Pollock,
Yes.
Higginbotham,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now in closed session at 8:02 PM. Thank you all for coming, and drive home safe.